Now, evicting a tenant may not only be a very lengthy process, but it can also cost tens of thousands of rands in legal fees. But there are ways to mitigate and bypass these legal costs. And to shed some light on the matter, I'm now joined by attorney and managing director of Expello, Elize Le Roux. Elize, welcome to All About Property.
Thank you for having us.
Now, before you can even start the eviction process, a letter of demand needs to be issued. What exactly is that? Talk to us about that process.
Cornelius, that is almost the foundation of the whole process. If that letter is not done correctly, you're not going to have a successful eviction. That's how important that letter is. So what that letter is basically informing the tenant of why they are in breach of the lease agreement. And it has to be very clear on what the breach is. So you can't just say, you owe me money. You have to say specifically, you owe me 5,000 Rand. And it has to say what you have to do. Do I want you to pay it? Do I want you to, what is the result you want? And then the consequences. So if that letter is not done properly, you're not going to be able to cancel it and proceed with an eviction.
Now, the next level, let's say that tenant does not rectify. The lease can now be cancelled. Talk to us about this process.
Yeah, so that is definitely, just again to reiterate, we have to remember it is a two-step process, because many landlords, some want to do the cancellation in the demand part because it feels like obvious. But the letter is now basically coming back and say, you haven't done what I asked you to do. And now the result is we cancelling the lease. And the lease agreement is then cancelled with immediate effect. And then you have a choice. Do you want them to move out immediately? Do you want to give them an extra time to move out? But you have to stipulate when you want them to move out in your cancellation letter. Now, one of the things that I want to say is one should be very careful. Many people use the cancellation letter, like intimidate the tenant a bit and with the hope that they get money. But if you cancel a lease agreement is cancelled. You can't just then proceed to issue an invoice the next moment and then just continue. You have to formally reinstate the lease. So a cancellation letter might be very short and sweet, but it's important, and the consequences has a big impact.
Now, once this lease agreement has been cancelled, the attorney can now start drafting the eviction application. Yes. Give us a bit of insight there, and at what point would the matter go to court, if it even does go to court?
So I usually say that your time to negotiate and mediate is the time since the letter of demand has been issued up until cancellation. The moment you are ready to cancel, you should be ready to go to the attorneys. What we do at Expello is that is the vital time that we use. If I cancel the next day, all the documents must be in order. You have to have all the information. An eviction application is a quite lengthy document that has to set out all the grounds, why you want to evict, why you're entitled to the eviction, and it addresses everything that the PI Act requires to be addressed. So that is a document many people are saying, and why do I pay so much? But it's so much information and has to be clear. And that's the document that's drafted, and the attorneys then proceed with the eviction.
Now, Elize, I think it's also important for the landlord to know that he cannot do anything unlawful during this whole process, like turning off the water or the electricity, because that might not help his case in court. Am I right?
That's correct. I had one case I argued myself in the High Court, and that owner got so frustrated they used the TLB to go remove the roof from the house. And at the end of the day, during the eviction, it went about how he approached the whole situation and the human rights, because it is about human rights. So it's so important to do absolutely everything, that the fight goes about them being illegal and not what the owner did incorrectly. I think that is almost the most important part. That's what I think. Owners get frustrated because they don't understand the process and they don't get regular feedback. And also, I say, don't be nice. If you give your tenant a week extra or a month extra, in legal terms, you are postponing the whole matter easily with 3 months. And you have to consider, are you able to be without an income for 4 to 6 months? Are you able to give them that extra time? And that's why it's very difficult if owners manage their own properties. That's why you have specialists out there. That's why you have backup, to have that bit of a barrier.
Now, attorneys are expensive people. So just give me more or less an estimate. What would the legal cost be of such an eviction? Let's say it goes to court, and then also, how long would this be? I've heard it can get drawn out for months. Is this true?
Absolutely. So I've dealt with different attorneys in all of the provinces. So, you know, every province works a bit differently, but your average cost is easily between 30,000 and 80,000 Rand for an eviction. And and I mean, that is not what you have to pay. And then, yes, you can try and get it from the tenant, but if they don't have money, they don't have money. It's going to cost you more to try and get that money back. So that's the expensive part. And then again, this matter can easily be, if it's opposed and really vigorously opposed, or we had an incident in KwaZulu-Natal with the riots. Our matter was set down, the riots happened, and it gets postponed for another month. That matter went for 6 months. So standard, it should take about 16 weeks. Opposed, you're looking at about 6 months. But I mean, I've heard matters that can go for a year if they really want to delay it, and you know, everything just goes wrong.
Now, Elize, there are ways to mitigate this risk of a potential eviction. The first is vetting the tenant properly when he moves in. Do you have any advice there?
Yes, I have to say, just from an attorney side, you know, what I thought about vetting changed quite a bit after being really working with tenants. And I think the vetting process, affordability is of utmost importance. Yes, you get credit checks and it's very important, but go and look about and make sure the person that does the vetting for you have got all the resources and they did all the checks. Go ask. I would tell landlords, ask the agent, you know, what do you do during your vetting process? That they don't take any shortcuts. To say I phone the current landlord is not really going to help, because the landlord will say anything to get rid of a bad tenant. So vetting is very, very important. And it shows you also how it's, it doesn't tell you what's going to happen in the future, but it gives you a bit of the history.
Okay. Now, life happens. It might be a good paying tenant. A few months down the line, he loses his job and then he can't pay. For that, okay, there's another way to mitigate, and that is through assuring yourself against a potential eviction. And that's where you come in. Talk to us about that. Expello
is not a rental guarantee. There's a lot of rental guarantee companies out there. But our focus is to get the person out as soon as possible.
But Elize, what I want to understand, just in terms of costs, because that 80,000 Rand was like a big whoa. So if I'm the landlord, do I pay a monthly fee, and when I have to evict, you cover all the costs? Is that how it works?
Yes, we've got a fixed fee. Doesn't matter how much the rental is. Our fee is 185 Rand plus VAT. And that's what you pay, and up until while the lease agreement is in place. If we cancel, your payments stop and we proceed with the eviction, and we pay all the legal cost of that eviction. The only cost up until we get to the eviction order. So we save, somebody said to me, you have to pay Expello for about 19 years and then you can pay for one eviction if you saved all of those installments yourself. So we want to make it affordable, and it's not linked to what the rental is.
Okay, well, it sounds great. Gives a lot of peace of mind. We are practically out of time. Just one last question. What advice would you give to landlords when they do find themselves in an eviction process?
I want to say, run it as a business. Try and get everything in place before you even get there. So because when you get there, it's not going to be that difficult, because it's a business and everything should run smoothly. I think that's the most important advice I can give.
Well, fantastic. Elize, lovely chatting to you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.